cattle battle.
Welcome back to the Ranch It Up Radio Show, the most information-packed into a 30-minute program that you can find at your All Things Ranching newscast, and so glad to be hanging out with y'all. Questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, rants, it doesn't matter. Give us a call or a text at 707-RANCH-20. That's 707-726-2420. Our email, ranchitupshow@gmail.com, and prowling around social media at Ranch It Up Show. Most in the cattle business are trying to manage their herds on minimal inputs. It makes sense. Keep those costs down as much as possible to maximize profits. You hear a lot of our guests say that they run their seed stock and their purebred cows as they would a commercial cow herd. Minimal inputs. Let's throw another dynamic into this mix about changing geographic locations. Kelly Erickson with the CK Bar Ranch out of Kadoka, South Dakota, faced that challenge and changed his focus and strategy to reposition himself for success. Kelly's family, they've been in the Simmental business for a long time, roughly 45 years. In fact, his dad was part of a group of about 10 breeders that helped change the dynamic of the Simmental breed to where it is today. Kelly, welcome to the program. Let's talk first about the geographic change from originally in the northern one-third of North Dakota to moving to the southern third of South Dakota. And in this move is where you were able to really hone in what and how you wanted and, quite frankly, needed cattle to perform.
Obviously, it's sure enough nicer winters here. You know, we don't have those long, down here in Kadoka, one of those long stretches of cold weather. But one of the significant things that I had to get used to when I moved down here is how bad the winter storms can be, the blizzards, things like that. Everybody thinks that North Dakota is so snowy and miserable. And be honest with you, I had never seen a storm dump snow like I have down here at Kadoka several times. Now, will that snow burn off? Generally, it will. When we get snow in North Dakota, it stays. But the basic premise of everything is the same. You know, we developed cattle that could survive on short grass, that grazed through the winter as long as we possibly could, as long as we had grass for them. You know, those cattle grazed. And it's a funny story. The first year I came down here, my father-in-law are out driving around looking at cows. And he's like, look at them cows way up there on them side hills grazing. And it's mid-January. And we're starting to feed a little bit. And he goes, why wouldn't they come down here for feed? And we went up there and looked, and every one of those was one of my cows.
Aha.
Because even when I was in North Dakota, I didn't feed those cows until around the 1st of February if I could help it. You know, I didn't have a lot of equipment. I had a bale bed pickup and a skid steer. And hay was always pretty short supply. And so, and a lot of time, you know, we obviously put lick barrels out, you know, for a supplement, and there's salt and mineral, but I never cake those cows or anything like that. And I think it's made my cows into better cows. They're definitely going out there foraging longer, you know, and the other thing it'll weed out your poor cattle right from the start. I mean, if they ain't going out there grazing and maintaining their condition on their own, they show up pretty quickly because they're either open or just not the right kind of shape.
I think a lot of people can relate to getting by with just the bale bed and the skid steer. I'm going to add in a good horse, a good dog, and gas in the four-wheeler to that one. And we remember how we got started, and many times those philosophies, they flow through how we manage those cows today, be it commercial or be it seed stock. Minimal inputs. They have to survive. Adaptability. Just like that story, Kelly, that you told us about the cows grazing on the side of the hill in January. They were your cows. They were Kelly Erickson cows. I know your philosophy. Minimal inputs. They have to survive. They can't be babied. But now, on the flip side of that, let's throw in the dynamic of being a seed stock producer, raising bulls, and the need to capture lots of data, numbers, selective breeding. And you mentioned off air that your management is very scheduled, fairly strict of how you raise those calves, wean those calves, and different practices, and ultimately setting up those calves for success. And in your case, the next zip code for lots of those calves is just breeding walking bulls.
That's right. You know, we make sure they get those 2 rounds of shots in the fall. They'll get their first set in late August, early September. And that's when we weigh our calves. The other thing, too, I'm going to put in there as management tools. We use the nose weaners on those calves, the nose flaps. And it's taken a lot of stress off of those calves. You know, we generally leave them in for a week to 10 days, pull those things off, take those calves away from their mothers, and they're not missing that cow one bit. And it's helped a ton on the sickness, and it's helped those calves make that transition from that milk and grass diet to a concentrate or feed diet, you know, quite a bit. And then, of course, about 60 days after that we give that first series of shots in the fall, we'll give them another set too. We're setting these cattle up for success right from the beginning. You know, from day one, you know, when they get their calf vaccination right when they're born, when they get tagged and weighed, you know, to the branding shots all the way through the weaning process and beyond. You know, and I'm a big believer too, and I know a lot of guys, you know, they'll pour those calves, but and I'm not going to mention a product specifically, but I inject those calves with a really good dewormer in the fall, and it's really setting those calves up for just some tremendous growth post-weaning.
And through this dynamic of moving locations, you said your focus has changed.
The changes I made were breeding more calving east type bulls, you know, instead of having those, just for instance, like an 8, 9, or 10 calving ease EPD bull that I was selling. And now I'm focusing more on a bull that's, you know, 13 to 15 in his calving ease number, and trying to get as much marbling bred into these cattle as I possibly can. I mean, the industry is moving towards that. The feeders know where these calves come from. So all I'm trying to do is raise cattle that my bull customers can make money on. Just in my own opinion, in the future, we're going to see cattle valued more based on their carcass qualities than we are on just strictly weight in the fall. And with all the technologies out there, these feeders know whether they're buying them at a sale barn or they're buying them at the scale out in the country or they're buying them on Superior or whatever, they know where these calves are coming from. And if you want your calves to be at the top of the market, you're going to have to raise those kind of cattle that those guys can make money on year after year, not just in the good years like we're having right now.
A few years back, I was a keynote speaker at a cattlemen's convention, and we were visiting about the history and the evolution of beef, specifically on the marketing side, providing information to the end user, to the consumer, you know. And I asked this question: who has the ability to change our industry the fastest? Whose shoulders does this potential change rest on? And I pointed to a few seed stock guys that I knew in the audience, and I said, it's on your shoulders. You guys are going to be the ones that change our industry the fastest. And of course, I got a few, looks, a time or two. And after the presentation, I was visiting with them, and I said, guys, I guarantee that I sold bulls for you today. So, Kelly, I'm going to push back on you the same way and say that it rests on your shoulders, the bull guys, to move this industry in one direction or another, to implement change of product.
That's right. I wholeheartily agree. I mean, it all starts with the guy that's supplying those bulls to the commercial ranches. If you're buying a bull from them that's just strictly a high growth bull and has a low marbling score, low, small ribeye score, whatever, are you advancing that guy's feeder calves any? That's my thought process. If those guys aren't making money off of my bulls, I'm not going to make money either. I just look through the whole industry and not just what you're doing specifically, what I'm doing specifically. I took a little bit more of a holistic approach to it. I get enough time sitting out here on horseback looking at cows that was one thing that I really think we as seed stock producers need to do, is think beyond ourselves and just making money and think about what's happening for that next segment and the segment after that, the feeder that's taking those cattle to kill all the way to the grocery store. Do they have a marketable product there as well?
Kelly Erickson with the CK Bar Ranch, great to catch up and have you share your story and philosophy of management, direction, and focus of your genetics with all of us. The CK Bar Ranch is hosting their annual production sale where You can take advantage of their philosophy in genetics Friday, April 4th at SimAngus Livestock in SimAngus, South Dakota. Bid and buy online at DV Auction. All of Kelly's information, including the catalog, videos, all their sale information, Kelly's contact information, links to DV Auction. It's all available in one stop at ranchchannel.com. Check it out Friday, April 4th. Crew, it's break time. When we come back, y'all know the drill. We talk numbers, sales, and a lot more of the cow stuff right here on the Ranch It Up radio show. Keep it parked.